All right, welcome back to another episode of Fifth Generation Leadership. Today, I've got Peter Wrangle, Twitter anon that I ran into. That is a intel officer, a fellow 04 in the Army, but spent most of his time, or maybe all of his time, on the guard side.
Mm-hmm.
And um, just wanted to talk to him because I see a lot of the stuff that he says. He's got a sweet bio picture that's the Norman Rockwell freedom of speech painting, but the dude's wearing kit. It's pretty awesome. And so I asked him if he wanted to do a podcast sometime, and he agreed to come on and chat. So, with all that said as an introduction, Peter Wrangle. Oh, also the cool thing that that name, that Russian leader who fought the Bolsheviks and had exfil a bunch of people out of Soviet Russia under the Bolshevik Revolution, great
Yep.
counter-revolutionary general. So that's also pretty sweet. So that said as an introduction, yeah, please, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, in a nutshell, that is I. I am nearing my 20 years in the South Carolina Army National Guard. November will be 20 years, and at the same time, they are medical retiring me or medically boarding me because of the pictures that I post on Twitter of my right shoulder, of the artificial shoulder that I now have, which is the fourth surgery I've had in 5 years. Again, don't have a cool story to go with it. Just general age, wear and tear. That's how I got it. Yeah, so 20 years of pure military intelligence. Of that, the last 13, I have done counterintelligence work. So either operational or being in investigations, doing TARP briefings or threat awareness reporting briefs, or some sort of analytical work, which is very honestly, it's the I think the most fun and most impactful work that I've done since, because you might get one person, two people a year, or leads a year, but you're protecting the assets of the organization, the people of the U.S. Army, and that really means a lot, especially here in the States where it gets a little fuzzy when you can do certain intelligence work because of intelligence oversight, 12333 or EO 12333. So, if you're not doing some sort of natural disaster, direct support to civilian authorities, counterintelligence work with that foreign nexus is probably going to be the closest thing that you can actually do when it comes to intel work. So, so that's I've operated Middle East, Europe, Asia Pacific region. Here in the States, I was for 3 years. I was on the Sea Smurf mission, which was essentially if there's a non-nuclear disaster in the lower 48 states, my infantry battalion would respond as a force protection for first responders. And yeah, let me see anything. So that's that's pretty much my 20 years. But throw in some education here and there, and that's me. And currently, I live in rural South Carolina on 13 acres with my wife, and I love it. And we're slowly turning this land into a homestead. And with a hopefully functioning shoulder, I can do more and more every day. And yesterday was kind of a small unconscious win. I actually took my right arm, put it above my head, and was able to apply deodorant without me actually thinking about it. So that was actually kind of a win for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a physical therapist by trade. So, yeah, total shoulder replacement is no joke. That is a major surgery. It's difficult to get back,
Mm-hmm.
uh, recover function after that. So that is not lost on me how huge of a win that is to be able to
Yeah.
have full functional range of motion to do something
Yeah.
like put deodorant on without
And
having any sort of twinge of pain to wake you up
yeah.
and make you realize it.
Yeah, it really make you feel it. While the VA has been great in their ability to marry me up with a great orthopedic, they have done poorly in their authorization and reauthorization when it comes to my physical therapy. So technically, even though I had surgery in June on my shoulder and did 15 visits per the first authorization. After that, it took them up until I think this past week to reauthorize me for another set of visits. So everything I've done after those 15 visits has been on me, from the collection of goods that I have from my previous physical therapy, and from doing my own kind of research online. So
Well, if you ever want any feedback or guidance while you're waiting on the word from those folks, then I'm always, always feel free to reach out.
I appreciate it.
Um, so I want to focus in on something that you mentioned that like you mentioned very cavalierly, EO
Yeah,
12333.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm assuming that's an executive order. What executive order is that,
Oh,
and what's the
yes.
significance there?
So EO 12333 was signed by Reagan after like the Warren Committee. So after the you can say that the dirty deeds of the CIA, the FBI, and certain organizations. Um, um, After all that dirty laundry came out, and the Warren Commission and these various investigations, Reagan came out and said, with the EO, that unless you have a specific like mandated by Congress specific mission, then you cannot do intelligence activities here in the States. Now, there are classified caveats to that and all that, but and also a part of the EO is the U.S. doesn't, I put this in air quotes, conduct assassinations. So, but yeah, so that's so EO 12333 is kind of like, you know what guides the intelligence oversight, you can say, of intelligence activities, with several caveats, with some being classified.
Yeah, so that they don't conduct assassinations. It's like, well, then what's a joint effects priority list, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, what's like what we did to Soleimani and stuff like that, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And and half the stuff you did in Afghanistan with targeting, and Iraq or whatever. Again, that's why there's caveats. Like, it's not why it's called assassinations, and you know, typically
so,
you don't really like head of states sometimes.
so what? The big question that comes to my mind, from your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
how did the Patriot Act change that? So, I get the feeling that
Oh,
with history, you have this era where Iran Contra happens,
mm-hmm.
and all these shenanigans, and the public, there's an outcry over it, and so we get some sort of protection in EO
Well,
12333, and then
mm-hmm.
I would imagine that the Patriot Act kind of provides
Mm-hmm.
ways to get around that.
It kind of massaged it. So, what essentially they say um, the Patriot Act did or does is that each so okay, so because of like the Warren Commission and all these different investigations and such, it built these quote unquote walls, or stovepipes within the intel agency, so that if, say, the NSA has some information, FBI has some information, the CIA has some information, there was no real way for them to share it, crosstalk, all that kind of stuff, which in my opinion is a little BS, because they're just a bunch of fiefdoms and they ain't going to share anything anyway. But the Patriot Act was to break down those walls in order for information to be shared, so that people of interests who seem to, even to this day, seem to be on people's radar, but aren't picked up. That's another story, I guess. But yes, that's essentially what that. So that's what part of the Patriot Act did. Um, in other ways, it allowed for um, it said that as long as like the FISA court and such as that, it just said that, well, since the government's doing it and we have a judge who signed off on it, it's okay. So it's an executive order one is by the president, the Patriot Act is done by the president, and they're a little bit different in that sense. But I mean, executive order doesn't really mean anything in the sense that, like, it can be overridden by another executive order, while at least like an act passed by Congress has to be amended or changed by debated by Congress and such. But I wouldn't really call the Patriot Act as very patriotic these days, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I think that the way that those FISA courts are structured, especially with the politicization
mm-hmm.
of judges, so like what
Yes,
we're seeing in the current Trump case
mm-hmm.
with that judge being nakedly partisan,
Yeah.
regardless of what you think about Donald Trump, the dude is clearly partisan, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have this sort of paradox where the kind of judges that should most be compelled to recuse themselves in these circumstances where they're ideologically biased or have a conflict of interest
Mm-hmm.
are the least likely to recuse themselves.
Yes, true.
So it's like
Yeah.
somebody who's got the integrity to recuse themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That person you actually want, you don't want them to recuse themselves because they have that
Yeah,
reflection and
exactly.
trying to
Yeah,
think
like
about their biases and then be
the
honest.
the leader who stands up versus the leader who reluctantly stands up versus the leader who eagerly jumps up.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if you have these FISA judges that
Mm-hmm.
are human beings and
Mm-hmm.
there's not a rigorous oversight process, it's like they sign
Mm-hmm.
off on it and you can
Yep.
go three hops deep on surveillance on
Mm-hmm.
three hops. That's a lot of
Well,
hops from
yeah.
somebody
Well, and again, what's the F stand for in FISA?
foreign, right?
Foreign, exactly.
Yeah.
It's got to have
Yeah,
a
then
foreign nexus, right?
yeah,
So
so
again, how did Tucker Carlson get mixed up with a FISA court?
yeah, yeah, and Carter Page, right? It's like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
exactly.
he
Like,
had I'm doing official work for the CIA, which the CIA confirmed, and then we
well, then
have
you
a
get then
FBI attorney that changes that from a yeah he did work for them to he didn't and gets
well
a
you get
slap on the
into
wrist.
then you get into unmasking. So that's another thing about the FISA court and the power of it and such. It's supposed to be very compartmentalized and very isolated, and there's been no real study or real I guess analysis of how extensive the power people have to say unmask individuals or to request a FISA a subpoena or the process itself. So yeah,
So yeah,
like again, like I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure we're not really sure who unmasked Michael Flynn.
oh yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah,
Actually, I want to. This is something that I heard Robert Barnes say that I wanted
yeah,
to run by you.
okay,
I mean, I didn't think about this in
yeah,
particular, but now that it pops into my head,
yeah,
so he said that Michael Flynn, they kind of held back and waited for him
yes,
to
mm-hmm.
pinpoint all the people that he wanted to work with
Yeah,
in that administration. So
mm-hmm.
like people that he trusted that he wanted to
Yeah,
bring in, and then
mm-hmm.
they dropped the hammer as soon as he identified all those people, and then put
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100% of those people under criminal investigation. Do you know anything
So
about that? Is there truth to
So
that?
I don't know anything about that, but this is what I'll say. Okay, so when it comes to Michael Flynn, it's hard to talk about him because you have what he has become, which is a broken man by the system, whom he has given everything he has to it, thinking that he was doing the right thing by doing so, and having everything taken away from him by that system. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So you have that. So you have the man who he is now. But then you before that you have the I'm about to become the national security. What was he? The going to be the
National Security Advisor.
yeah, national security advisor. So you have that. So you have I'm about to become the national security advisor. Now you have I am a broken man because of the way the system treated me. Okay, so if you think of it like that, it's a little bit easier to kind of digest. If you look at his career, he has always been kind of a maverick or a cavalier or someone who, as an MI officer, kind of, I can cuss, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Who actually gave a shit about his career and about the profession. When he came into the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, did his, 30, 60, 90 and did some analysis on how things were done. I mean, essentially what he told the civilian workers was like, do your job or you're going to get fired, or I'm going to find ways to fire you. And they didn't like it. They pushed back. They did everything in their power to get rid of him. Eventually, he was let go at DIA. He becomes the number one intel guy in Afghanistan. Is the only person of worth and of integrity to go on the record with his name to talk about how shitty Afghanistan has become per the Afghanistan papers. The Afghanistan papers originate from a discussion held with Michael Flynn. Everything that we know about it starts with him. And then with him becoming National Security Advisor, he had a plan to reorganize and to just utterly realign and gut the American intelligence community in order to make it, one, more efficient, create actionable intelligence, but also protecting the civil liberties of Americans. And again, the deep state, the people who worked there for years, or whatever you want to call them, didn't like that. The alumni didn't like that. The people who have established power from that system didn't like it, and so they sought to destroy him. That's how I see it. I like to do more digging and information on it, but just from what I've kind of read about his career and his progression and especially if you read what his enemies say about him, that's the impression that you get.
I mean, that resonates with me. And I mean, I also just think that it would have been a lot more difficult for them to run the whole Russia collusion thing, which was so dependent upon leveraging consensus amongst the intelligence community establishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with him in the mix. And so
exactly, yeah, it would
kneecapping,
yes.
kneecapping him, there wasn't anybody within that establishment that was going to push back, especially because like if what Robert Barnes had said is what happened, where he identified all the people that he trusted and they put all those people under DOJ criminal investigation in order to pressure them to let go of their ambitions, then all of your allies are gone. And now we have this homogenous block where ideologically these are people that, as you noted, are most concerned about maximizing their high three, probably satisfying their egos that they're doing important work and that they're on the right side of history.
Well, Schumer came out and said that the intelligence community has every way to get you from 3 ways from Sunday or whatever, however the expression goes. That should send a shiver down the spine of every U.S. citizen. And it didn't. It was just like, well, it's Michael Flynn, it's Donald Trump, screw them, they deserve it. Nope, let the IC community go after them. And it should have scared the ever living piss out of people, but it didn't because of whom it was directed towards.
Yeah, if they can do that to people that are high profile, it's like what hope do?
I mean, look what they did with people with J6. Look what the IC was able to do in relation to J6 because of FISA. Because of all the tools that it uses. Not making a comment about J6, but what they were able to do about it. And not only that, another aspect about it is the what's I'm looking for? The crowdsourcing of the intelligence community, the gamification of the intelligence community, the collaboration between the commercial and federal government when it comes to the intelligence community are all very disturbing trends that came about that kind of started hitting its stride in the Trump years, like Charlottesville and other events, J6. But then it became a thing in when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, and for a long time, ever since Edward Snowden came forward and did that whole thing, and I've always thought it was kind of weird that he couldn't get a pardon or at least official recognition on some level that what he did was uh, defensible
Mm-hmm.
once it was recognized that what he revealed was unconstitutional, which it was
Well,
in court.
but the problem is that I mean, say like I mean, what he revealed, I don't know, 20%, right? And then that 20% was unconstitutional. The other 80% he revealed was pretty damaging, and that's why he won't he'll never get parole.
Yeah, I did. I remember talking to a guy that worked in the intelligence community. I was like, yeah. So what
Yeah,
do you think about Edward Snowden? And he just goes, I want to eat his skin. And I was like, oh
yeah,
damn.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like,
I
okay.
mean, if it was truly about getting information out there about illegal um, activities by the U.S. government, I mean, I would be very much about bringing, pardoning him, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't. There was other aspects to what he brought back. He brought out that damaged U.S. security. So I'm sorry, there's no pardon for that.
Yeah, let's pick on that a little bit.
Okay.
What did he reveal that damaged national security that you feel was a part of the apparatus that was
So
constitutional?
well, one I can't. I mean, like I can't really officially say anything
Oh, okay,
because
okay, okay.
some of it's
No issues.
classified.
Yeah.
But like I can comment that there were people at Redstone Arsenal, which is down in Alabama, and it's the home of missile. It's not the home of missiles. I mean, they build missiles. It's where like Alabama is a huge giant missile factory essentially. But the day after he immigrated, Redstone Arsenal was getting hit by every and all types of um, you can say what's the word I'm looking for uh, denial of service attack, any type of hack, anything. It was getting hit by anything with origins from Russian or Russian linked organizations. So stuff like that. That's about as close as I can say.
Yeah, that's yeah, that I've never heard that perspective from
Mm-hmm.
someone that wasn't kind of a deep state
Mm-hmm.
hack. So that's helpful
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
usually you
Because
only hear people
yeah.
like James Clapper and
No,
people
no,
with
no, no, no. I mean, I talk. I mean, because when it happened, I mean, I would talk to people, other people who were in my ranks and who were, who worked, low jobs or whatever. And I was like, hey, so what do you think of so and so, I'm an MI officer, so of course that's when, especially CI, I'm gonna ask these questions, and they would give me examples, blah blah blah, and so I learned a lot of things, and none of it is going to be this hyperbolic, oh, the damage to national security, blah 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 blah. Like again, a few things I
but there
can't talk
were
about
things,
because,
there were
but yeah,
things, there were
there were
factors that he could have handled
tangible
better.
things that occurred that that directly from his release of or his information that he had and he took from the states. Yes.
So I think the next natural question is, what about Julian Assange?
Uh, I kind of flip flop back on him a little bit. I guess I find it odd to be a person who is about exposing secrets yet doesn't like his own secrets to be exposed, which understandable and understandably so. Yeah, I think that the underage thing is kind of bullshit. Um, it's I don't know. That's a very tough one. I kind of go back and forth on that. There, in my opinion, it all hinges on this one particular case about um, 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 I can't remember the details of it right now, but it all hinges on this one particular case where he either just he received information or put pressure and requested specific information on this kid. So that's what it boils down to. Was he a party to the taking and stealing of classified information, or was he a recipient of it? And so that's while that might seem like a fine line, that is the difference between like people like who's the Pentagon Papers, the Afghanistan Papers. They are pure recipients of information. They make no requests. They make no pressure and such. But the question is, did he do that? And so that's in my opinion, that's why he needs to stand trial to see if that's true, right? And that's just the case.
Yeah, and I think that him having I think he'd be the least in opposition to having an open and transparent trial,
I know that's what you
investigating
would think.
things.
You would think so. You would think that, right? And again, so like, why, you know, back in my more neocon days, I hated him. I hated his release. Well, so okay, so it wasn't. So when WikiLeaks released all the information about Afghanistan, the problem was that it was open. Anyone with a key could get access to it, and it wasn't redacted yet. It was a Guardian. There's a Guardian writer who then went in and started taking information to write reports, who didn't redact information, therefore leading to names being released that led straight to people getting murderized in Afghanistan. And they tried to pin that on WikiLeaks as a whole and him specifically. But and also his release of certain films and footage of gunship footage. His the way he labeled things, the way um, he the view he tried to make people have. I didn't like him. I thought he was a piece of crap. But again, if he was truly, receiving information from, like if he was truly a journalist receiving information from whistleblowers, then I mean he should be protected under, like other journalists. But again, I thought he was a piece of crap earlier in my career.
No, I appreciate the candor. The
Yeah.
reason I wanted to pivot and ask about him is because he had always been very adamant about vetting things and
Oh yeah.
not releasing things that could be damaging in that way that perhaps Edward Snowden didn't. And so I wanted to kind of ask about the contrast. If you,
so again, like it goes back to that. It goes back to all the information was stored, again, not probably the best idea, under a key, unredacted, that people can get access to. So yeah.
So I'd recommend, and I'll probably, I'll send this to you and you can check it out if you want. But there's a fellow Substacker that goes by Neoliberal Feudalism. That wrote an article about Julian Assange, and I thought it was very informative and kind of showed the background of his strategy and what he was trying to get after. And I think it was honestly pretty brilliant. It gave me a much deeper appreciation for what he was doing. There's a lot of strategy involved in it, and the idea of how just the arguments about how secrecy in government allows for negative things to happen, and the inverse. He's providing friction.
It does.
And making it more difficult. You're adding by having this outlet, you're providing friction to this system of governments where it makes secrecy harder, and the harder secrecy is for them, the less they have to use it in order to be efficient. And so it just applies this strategic pressure. Anyway, it's very interesting. Like I won't try to recap all the arguments, but
it sounds good. Yeah.
So let's pivot into talking Bolshevism, because this is obviously it's your pseudonymous namesake. And something that's going on in the military right now.
I need to read the book. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, no. It's I just mean generally, talking wokeism, politicization of the military. Because this is something that I think is having the most dramatic impacts on recruiting and retention. They're of course denying that in ways that I think are not candid, not honest. I think you and I both would agree that if you have recruiting command or any of these folks that are in senior positions that are answering to general officers, they're not going to be able to come up with reasons for problems that implicate political leadership,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
their bosses at echelon.
Or the system that they are part of. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, what do we do? And I think I think you're doing it, by going and exercising freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the whole idea of fifth generation leadership is all about, and
hmm
why I wanted to talk to you. So, yeah, please just share your thoughts on that.
Well, so the the main reason that we're having hard time recruiting soldiers is because we are the fattest, laziest, and dumbest we have ever been, or a young cohort, that we have ever been in United States history. That's just a fact. The U.S. Army had to institute and is now implemented nationwide a remedial type of learning program for math and essentially like language arts. And they at the same time, what you have is this kind of pushback by um, veterans themselves for the last 20 years, saying, especially the veterans of the GY, saying the Army will treat you like crap. They will break you. They will break your family. They will house you in barracks that are trash. They will do everything in their power to make your life a living hell. And then when you're done with you, they will kick you to the curb, um, and not give two thoughts about you, and tell you to go see the VA. So you have a generation of GI veterans for the most who are saying that, and then you have families of veterans who see that and are telling people not to join. So you have a lot of currents coming together for why you're having a hard time recruiting. Of course, you're going to say, well, the economy is good. Well, the economy really isn't that great, because when all the jobs are really looked at and examined, they're for they're for service jobs. Um, um, and so every month they go back 2 or 3 months and revise the numbers down. So the jobs really, it's not really the economy is doing so hot or so grand why you can't recruit people. So it's not that. The Biden administration just authorized 500,000 Venezuelans TSP, temporary protection status, meaning that they can't be deported and they can automatically apply for jobs. And so, these arguments that these people use to say why there's issues recruiting are just, again, they're lying. They're lying to themselves, and they are not going to implicate this, the various systems themselves. So they just it's funny. The article came out on like Task and Purpose, or one of those, and they said that they're going to cut down on unnecessary vehicle maintenance. And I looked at that and I was like, you know what? What's going to replace that quote unquote unnecessary vehicle replacement, vehicle maintenance, is not going to make us more lethal. It is not going to be classes on, how to, field strip your M4, or the new type, the new rifle coming out, or new pistol, or new types of, or what's the word I'm looking for? And they do fight like close quarter type of fighting or anything like that. It's going to be
Combatives.
combatives, yeah. It's going to be DEI. It's going to be sharp training, and it's going to be as such. That is what's going to replace that type of training.
Yeah, it's or just moving and communicating, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, they've for thankfully they've put in land nav back into basic training or some sort of level of training, and because people can't read a map, but yeah, that's not going to be that's not what this training's going to be. It's going to be on something not of a non-lethal function. Yeah, they're not. It's not going to be how to use a radio. It's not going to be how to talk. It's not going to be uh, for like natural disasters, how to operate without comms or any of that kind of stuff. So no.
Well, so I think honestly, they the only way that they could get after that is
Mm-hmm.
by protecting white space at lower echelons, and nobody sees it like
Yeah.
that. At,
Well,
at
yeah. Yeah.
at every
Yeah.
echelon up,
Yeah.
they think it's more and more their responsibility to fill
To
up
fill it
everybody's
up.
white
White
space.
space. Yep. If you have
And
white space on a calendar, then you are wrong.
but the kinds of things, like I'll give you an example. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is this is notional, okay? So like say notionally, there's some simple comsec
Yeah.
type stuff that needs to get done, like
Yeah.
filling SKLs in order for ground units to talk to uh, helicopters, okay, to do training, and that they could do this training. It would be awesome,
Yeah.
but nobody can kind of nobody's got the bandwidth to solve a little problem where hey, like these fills aren't making across to these radios,
Yeah.
so or the timing's off, and so like these things that everybody knows how to do and they should be able to do, they just don't have the time to do. You
Mm-hmm.
can't come down from on high and be like, look, this particular issue is an issue across the army, so everybody's got to do it like this, the standard, because those standards already exist. There's just not enough time
Yeah.
to do everything that we need to do.
Yeah.
So the only way to focus on the things that would be most valuable is having subject matter experts on the ground, say like a
Mm-hmm.
helicopter pilot, being like, it'd be really great as if we can communicate with the ground units in training. We're not able
Mm-hmm.
to do that. And then having the bandwidth to go solve that problem. But if that individual's white space completely filled up
Yeah.
with stuff,
Can
it ain't ever going to happen. It's going to be one of those things that falls by the wayside, which is why I like to adopt something that one of my colleagues said a long time ago. In the army, we're really good at surviving, and we're not good at thriving.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's the reason, right? Is
Yeah.
we don't have enough time. And I agree with you 100%. They're going to get rid of maybe weekly PMCS, which maybe is a little overkill to do weekly PMCS,
Yeah.
um, or some aspects of it they'll cut down, but it's not going to get. They're not going to be like, okay, now we got some white space,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
let's protect it. Now
Yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
inevitably fill
Yeah.
it with other stuff, and we know that this process is what happens. You read Garrison Wong's "Lying to Ourselves" back in
No, I have
2015?
not. No.
So that was published out of Army War College. A couple researchers, I think one was a retired full bird, and they went and they analyzed, hey, 350-1 training, how long does it take to do it? And they found that it takes more training time
Yeah.
than is available training
Mm-hmm.
time in a year, just the 350-1 stuff. And so
Yeah.
they did the analysis, and it's like, okay, well, something's got to give. You're expecting people to pick what not to do, and it creates this culture that we're all too familiar with check the block, like, hey, what's important,
Yep.
what's not
Pencil.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. Pencil whip it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
it gets people ethically numb to
Mm-hmm.
pencil whipping shit. And as soon as you have that, and people are ethically numb to skipping over stuff, and they take on the authority to do that, it sets up a very dangerous situation where people aren't actively differentiating between what's right and wrong, what's ethical and unethical
Yeah.
in
It's
terms of what to
very.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Very small. Like small challenges to your moral and ethical framework. It kind of numbs you down, and you begin to just allow other things to slip. So yes, it's a snowball, and it can achieve terminal velocity very quickly.
Yeah, and you at that point you don't like you don't know. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't know what your experience was with the COVID vaccine mandate, but that was kind of the
Yeah.
big thing that got me, trying to engage and talk about these things more openly. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that exact issue is what fed into that, where it was, that there was the whole issue with it being illegal, and that
Yeah.
it was only emergency use authorized. Like the FDA approved version wasn't ever made available. And you go and you point that out, and people just kind of go, well, so what?
Yeah.
Like it's that's just legalese. That's just red tape. And it's like
Yeah.
now come to find out, the VA is not going to compensate your claim for vaccine injury because, oh, well, it was under emergency use authorization and
Yeah.
you're not entitled to compensation under that event. So it's like these things like that. Turns out that like some of these things matter a lot. And if you're conditioned to thinking that none of it matters, then it leads people to doing things that are morally indefensible.
Yeah, COVID was definitely like a mask off moment that kind of got me where I was, I just kind of, I stopped caring even more and just really, really began to let my opinion be known about certain things. So yeah.
So on that note, and kind of your transition, I
Yeah.
won't say it to being
Yeah.
more cynical, but
Yeah.
being man, but maybe that's the right word for it. I'll let
Yeah.
you use whatever
Yeah.
word you want to use, but
Yeah.
that transition from and this goes back into the recruiting and retention thing because I
Yeah.
mean we both came in under GWAT. Well, you've been in 20, so you were right at the beginning.
Yeah.
I came in a little bit later. I decided to join up in around 2007 timeframe,
Yeah.
and uh, I had people that were Iraq War veterans that were friends of mine that were like, yeah, the Army sucks. But it's like at the end of the day, it was kind of like, hey, you can potentially make a difference, and the
Yeah.
mission
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yep.
important.
Uh-huh.
Like there was an idea that even though the Army had its issues and was had challenges and wasn't necessarily going to treat you well, there was an important mission that needed to get done. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on kind of including the COVID era, kind of that transition from you know feeling like everything kind of made sense and you had
Oh,
some
okay.
sort of spiritual grounding in terms of purpose and what you were doing
Yeah.
into like the situation that we're in
Oh,
now.
that easily. My turning point was the 2011, 2012 time frame, seeing the the mishandling of the Arab Spring into the Arab Winter, the overthrow of Gaddafi, the attempted overthrow of um, Assad, and how national security and military power are used to how how military power is used obviously for national security reasons, but then when shit goes sideways, no one is held accountable. Throw in my time in Germany, which you've read my pinned tweet along with my other discussions on Lieutenant Colonel W. It really it, um, it 2011 2012 that was 2018, but 2011 2012 was really that kind of point where I realized that the military is not what it says it is. It is not the Army of 1945. Hell, it's not even the Army that my grandfather was in during Vietnam. And so I we, I just started a career at university. I started taking some philosophy classes while I was there, and one was on the philosophy of war, and got me thinking, more deep, just more and more, a little more deep, and just just realizing that, I never thought that to that point that I had participated in is considered an illegal war until then, with Iraq. Like and then that's something what I kind of live with to this day is the concept of of what I did, right? Everything, yellow cake, all the lies, everything, all the BS that led up to the Iraq War. And so that kind of sometimes that weighs heavily on my mind, but yeah, it's just the and again that kind of leads into recruiting challenges of people realizing like, hey, the Army will lie to go to war, and hell, look, and look what's kind of going on currently. But yeah, 2011 2012, just how everything went down in that year was just really eye-opening to me.
So since it's been so long and you've
Yeah.
continued on for more than a decade after. What's kept you going? Like what focusing on what things?
I mean, a pure self interest in the sense that, you know, uh, one is my mother, who is just about like, you started something, you completed it, that type of aspect. The next is my grandfather. He passed away in 2014, but he, you know, he made it through. Like he joined at the end of World War II through Korea and saw what the army had become by the end of his time. And he was 74 or so, and he saw the false. Like he saw the fall of Saigon. I saw the fall of Afghanistan, and so I drew a little bit of strength from that, and and 100 like this is shameless. You can say I'm a part of a war machine or whatever, but um, you know, I get VA benefits, I get paid, I get insurance and such, and so yeah, that's probably, very cynical self-interest reason why I stayed, knowing what I do know, and but a tiny sliver of hope was that I could not change the system, but um, give enough information to a young lieutenant in the MI Corps so that they won't make, and even in the smallest decision in a combat ops, not direct support to civilian authority operations, that they don't make a horrible decision because of groupthink or political pressure or for whatever reason. It's just that was also like my hope was just like to help the low and lower enlisted to be just a little bit better as well.
So that resonates with me a lot. The way that I would characterize that, and I try and do the same thing, is in doing that, when you say make a horrible decision, to me, what's the worst decision that you could make is doing something that's unconstitutional, undermines the Constitution of the United
Yeah,
States.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And that it's simple as, we took an oath,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I don't think you need to think. Some people that have other reasons, they got to think more into it than that. But I feel like as long as I can fulfill and uphold my oath based on how
Yeah.
I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
then it isn't completely cynical and self-interested
Yeah.
to continue on,
Yeah.
because you feel like you're fulfilling the function that you swore to fulfill. And really everything beyond that, there's a lot of cultural bullshit on top of it, where it's like, hey, this is what the army's about, this is what it's supposed to be about, and ultimately it's like that ain't what the oath was.
Yeah.
So
And
like there's
and
going to be times where you're pressured to do things a certain way, or see things a certain way, but
mm,
that's like the only shit that really matters, I think, is that oath. And
yes.
so I just to give you my perspective on
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
said,
totally, yeah, I
is
totally
that
agree.
I don't think that it's completely cynical and self-interested, because like you said, you still have hope, and that's like you
Mm,
are fulfilling that function from your
yeah.
perspective.
Well, yeah. Trust me. My hope is quickly dissipating, just like the dew off of the grass outside right now. So I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's, I mean, so I was actually branch detail to MI,
Yeah.
and pushed back my like MI transition course
Yeah.
as far as I could to extend while I was out in Hawaii, in order to take prerequisites to switch over to physical therapy.
Mm,
And
I
I
got
actually
you.
I got waitlisted, and I was like, well, for a minute I thought, oh, maybe okay, I'll do the transition, then I'll try and reapply. And then I thought about
Yeah.
it, and I was like, you know what? I can't do it, man. I can't
Yeah.
do it. Like, I'm not going to go learn how to do an entirely new job that I don't I don't think I could fulfill my oath doing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be in the back of my head all while I'm doing it, and it's gonna make me just ineffective. I'm just not
Yeah.
gonna be
Oh
able
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
And
Yeah.
so I fully like, I put in my paperwork to resign, and I ended up getting called back off, so pulled that back.
Mm,
But like
that's good.
I did drop that refrad,
Oh wow.
Under those
Hmm.
circumstances back in 2014.
Huh.
And
Wow.
it actually, like, I got in, and when I filed the paperwork to pull it back, they just didn't action that paperwork. So I PCS to Fort Sam Houston, and I was there, and then I got a call from my branch manager. It was like, "Hey, you're in Fort Sam Houston, right?" Because I wasn't
Yeah.
checking military email, and he was like, "Yeah, you
Yeah.
just came down on separation paperwork," and I was like, "I've recognized that name." And I was like, "Thanks, man." So like, I would have just stopped getting paid if he wasn't
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I owe
Yeah.
that. I owe that
Yeah.
dude. But
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like for me, I like the reason I say that about like evaporating and to do outside is like a lot of things have happened post 2018 in my military career slash military and personal life that have a lot of things that impacted my military career post 2018, and it has been very disappointing, the reaction and the lack of caring of people, both professionally and militarily, because of those issues. And that is why I very much eagerly await my medical board. So,
yeah, and you said like living on 13 acres and getting
yeah,
set up
yeah,
for
that,
that.
yeah, I
People
got 13
say
acres. Yeah,
people say living the dream, right? And how you
yeah.
doing living the dream. That
Hmm.
really does sound like living the dream.
It
That's
is. It
where I
really
hope
not.
to
It really
be,
is nice.
down
It's
down the
going to be
road.
even better when my shoulder's even stronger. And actually, this morning, my wife and I were talking about like putting in like orchards of like apple trees and such, and taking advantage of natural placement of bees and tearing, like not tearing down, but I guess kind of clearing this little area for goats and pigs that we have. So yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I want to before we wrap up, I still want
yeah, yeah,
I want to talk Bolshevism, because I know
yeah. Okay,
if you're big in
okay,
that
okay,
Peter
okay.
Wrangle
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like,
Okay.
because this is something that I talk to people about
Mm-hmm.
in one on one. They're like, "Oh wow, that is really concerning,"
Mm-hmm.
and but just the deafening silence at higher echelons, and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you have people that are willing to repeat this
Mm-hmm.
diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. And it's like, I get it. I get it. It's coming out of the White House, but
Mm-hmm.
it is so clearly a violation of federal law, of the
Yeah.
Civil Rights Act,
That,
of equal opportunity policy, that it just drives me crazy that
well,
people aren't willing to stand up and say in a briefing, when they're like, "Hey, it's racist to say all lives matter, but it's totally
mm-hmm.
fine to say Black Lives Matter," and anybody pushes back on it. Like, I got a colleague who's a captain who's black, and it was over MS Teams, right? And so like he
Mm-hmm.
pushed back, and they were like, "Well, yeah, because you're white." That whole thing where they assumed that he's white, and like, "Oh yeah, this is white privilege," and he's like, "Well, also being a black, like, so we don't have a lot of people that are willing to stand up and push back on it." And I feel like it's just the easiest thing to push back on, because we have
Mm-hmm.
EO policy that we can just point
Yeah.
to, that everybody should be
Well,
familiar with.
so the problem is that one, what I'm about to say is rather cynical, and it's not mine. I saw it somewhere on Twitter, but the U.S. Constitution is just a piece of paper behind an inch of glass in Washington D.C. Like it, that's it. That's all it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 1965, in my opinion, and actually, that's my opinion from someone else, is actually our parallel or second constitution, meaning that in the sense that it supersedes the constitution that was written in the 1700s. And no one really, and because of that, and because of how bought in people are into the system, that the U.S. Army that has become a bureaucracy that is created to manage war, not to fight war. there's no reason to rock the boat. You're not going to advance your career in doing so, and so that's what matters. Like, yeah, we can say, oh, that's illegal. We can say, oh, like we can do all this kind of stuff, but again, you have to go through a process, and the process is part of the punishment. And so they know that, and that's how the system is designed. So, and that's why people get out at majors or captains and all that, because they get burned out. That's why Tuberville holding up all those generals, made me giddy as a schoolgirl, because they good, like they should have. Like I'm sorry, Marine General, and you had to have a longer day because you're doing the job of two people. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had your little wah fast, to the Marine Times about that, and and various other things, but you know people don't realize that those 300 generals were the proteges of the individuals who screwed up Afghanistan, who then were the proteges going further, going further and further back. So again, it's the army has become a self-replicating bureaucracy meant to manage war, not to win war. And a reason why a lot of the upper echelons have gone along with this is because of the design of the design of the Army of 2030 and the concept of the Army of 2040. Have you heard of these yet?
Yes. And why electric tactical vehicles? Like, are you kidding me? Like,
Well,
why is
well, yeah. So in general, and they are looking to electrify vehicles, especially in the Army of 2030, 2040 as well, and various other things. I had to do a bunch of research into both of them, but the big push in the Army of 2040 is autonomy, right? The ability for vehicles to work autonomously, without the interference or actions of others. And which is kind of funny, because then it's supposed to be manned by individuals who have to go through remedial math, which doesn't make any sense. But so with this highly autonomous army, you don't need a large army. You don't need hundreds of thousands of people when you can have, say, a dozen or so manning thousands upon thousands UASs, thousands upon thousands of undersea vehicles, using technology that's already existing, um, uh, thousands upon thousands land vehicles, autonomous land vehicles, and with that comes the rather scary notion that what happens if those 12 people are extremely highly partisan and they don't like certain people and they're willing to push the button. Like before, you had to have a squad or brigade or platoon of a mix of people who would not necessarily squeeze the trigger because a buddy beside them might not squeeze the trigger. But now, in 2040, when you have all this power in the hands of individuals who have no qualms about squeezing that trigger, what do you do then?
yeah, that's very troubling. I mean, I think that they're overestimating the extent to which that structure would rely on just as many people in order to enable
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like
that.
the ability to maintain and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it would
And
take just as many people.
Trust me,
less,
what they're trying to build in 2040 is not going to happen. I'm not.
Yeah, but just the fact that they want
the concept, like the concept, yes.
The fact that they want to,
yes,
is suggestive of, well, I mean, given everything else that they do and the rhetoric, especially like with the extremism stand down training,
yep, oh yeah,
which was, I found it to be incredibly offensive, and then they had to go in and clarify what they meant with DODI that actually like went in. You read the DODI and you're like, okay, this is all fine, but
Yeah.
that wasn't what we were meant to infer when that training came out. We were meant to infer that, you were extremist if you had certain political views. That
Yeah.
I felt like I was meant to infer that I was an extremist because of my
I
views.
can honestly say that like I don't think I've done any. I have not done any type of training such as that post the the training one. All I've done is like sign my name and literally walked out. That's all I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah. But even being forced to sign your name on it
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah. Yeah.
it's demoralizing, and I think that
Yeah,
that's
yeah, it
honestly
is.
it's the
And again,
purpose.
that
It's the
again,
purpose.
that's
It's one of the
it's the
purposes.
purpose of it. It's the army is changing. Again, it's funny. They're trying to recreate. I mean, they're talking about like having to conscript people because of fighting war against Russia and China simultaneously, while at the same time Middle East blowing up and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, people people want to think that you can just rubber stamp the army of World War II when it was a result when it was the result of cultural, socioeconomical factors that will never be replicated ever again in the United States.
Yeah, we don't have the industrial
Yeah,
base. You
yeah.
can't just
Well,
retool something to make tanks if you
yeah,
don't have
but
the factories that are
it's
making the cars.
correct. It's and again, you don't have the demographics. Like you don't have any of that. None of that's the same. I mean, literally, you have Palestinians and Jews fighting each other in Philadelphia. Like you're not going to have unit cohesion. You know what I'm saying? Like in that kind of stuff. Like you're just not.
Yeah,
You know.
especially when they've lost the narrative thread
Yeah.
on the kinds of things that could create cohesion.
I mean,
So like the
we
kind of
like
Americanism, like the
yeah,
classic kind of Americanism. Like the only way that that works is the whole colorblind thing. And they say that DEIA
yeah,
commissars are there to tell you that that's racist. That
yeah.
trying to take a colorblind approach isn't appropriate.
Mhm.
But that's the only thing that works in the context of the military. Like I
Yeah.
don't know,
Mhm.
one of the stories that stuck with me most, um, just kind of like as a data point, was I had a couple black NCOs that had just finished being drill sergeants that I
Mhm.
worked with, and they just one day were started bullshitting about their time being drills, and emphasized how it was a regular thing that uh, these black soldiers, that like when they're coming in as privates, as trainees, they would expect favorable treatment from the black
Yeah. Yeah.
drillers,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they talked pretty candidly about how they shut that down, and how it wasn't that hard. It wasn't that
Yeah.
hard, but they had to do it. They
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
say, "Hey,
Yeah.
look, you can't have any of that shit where you got
Mhm.
favorable treatment, because it just doesn't work with unit cohesion." It's like
Yeah.
you can't have somebody on your back that you don't feel like is your equal, you know,
Mhm.
and that whole uh, DIA, like they say it's equality, but it's not. Like
Yeah.
you can't have a focus on diversity without discrimination. Functionally,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
discrimination.
so it all boils down to the fact that the Civil Rights Act was passed as a means to address obvious needs for advancements for blacks in the United States. It was not meant for the advancements for Latinos, Indians, Chinese, other ethnic groups. It just wasn't. That was not the point of the Civil Rights Act. It was to address the mistreatment of blacks in the United States pre 1965. That is the fact. Since then, it has been used for all these other various. It has been a vessel for all these other issues, and that's the problem.
Yeah, so I'm sympathetic to that, being a
Yeah,
free market guy. I don't think that telling private businesses that they can't discriminate,
yeah,
that doesn't align with natural rights in my view.
yeah.
So
No,
it's like
I'm
if
just
it's your
yeah, 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 yeah.
property,
Yeah.
if it's your stuff,
Yeah.
like the idea that the federal government can come down and say, "Hey, you're not allowed to treat people a certain way."
Hmm.
Like it sounds nice. It sounds like this,
Yeah.
like, hey, it's really good to treat everybody equally. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I personality wise, I have like a liberal disposition, like a classically
Hmm.
liberal disposition. So the idea of somebody treating somebody poorly just because of the color of their skin, like it rubs me the wrong way
Yeah.
naturally. But it's gonna happen because
Hmm.
there's in-group preference, and it's
Yeah.
a unending and ever-present feature of human psychology. And all that the Civil Rights Act really does functionally, I think, is systematically allow people to game those feelings in one particular direction.
Oh, yeah.
Because if somebody's being treated poorly for being a Christian or being male or being white, like none of those things are taken seriously unless they are very, very over the top and egregious. So
Hmm.
it's like it's not like it's never happened that such things have been considered,
Yeah.
but it's only really gamed heavily in one direction.
Hmm.
And like all the major lawsuits that are tens of millions of dollars, like all of them are for particular people and not others, and it's not equal in that sense. And I don't think functionally it's designed to promote actual equality under the law, and because it just can't be applied that way. That said,
Yeah.
I think there is a rationale to it in the context of federal employment. Like the rules that are outlined in it,
Hmm.
I think apply when you're spending taxpayer dollars. So like if taxpayer dollars are going to something, since that comes from everybody,
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable. I think field policy in the context of the military as it is being based on the CRA, I think it makes sense. Um, but uh, extending it to private businesses, like it
Yeah. I mean, it's become our
doesn't make
second
sense to me.
constitution. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
become our second constitution. So yeah. Hmm.
Um, so you mentioned 2030, 2040,
Yep.
like, and how we're probably not going to be able to execute, that their idea
Yeah.
for 2040, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the next 5 to 10 years are going to look like as you transition out?
I mean, I don't know. You're going to see more management style of war. You're going to. I mean, I mean, but late. Okay, so just in the last few days, Lake City Ammunition has stopped all private sales. Same with Winchester and Hornday's manufacturing facility blew up. That's all interesting. Um, I'm not seeing any type of. I'm seeing contracts being signed by large defense contractors. However, I am not seeing the subsequent expansion of manufacturing capability. Um, so unless I miss something, or unless they start spitting out things here and like start growing in the next 6 months, um, we're gonna run. We're just gonna run out of stuff. I mean, there's just there's only so much in the cupboard, and there's only so much that we can. There's only so many places that we can support, and tough decisions are gonna have to be made, and certain locations are going to have to be prioritized over the other. Um, and um, you know that is going to make some people very upset. That's going to get a lot of people killed, which is very sad. It's very saddening to me. But ultimately, we're going to have to put our national interests ahead of our ahead, because we're not in a space to we're not the arsenal of democracy as we were in 1945. We're just not, and we're nowhere near it. We're not putting any true effort into it. Hell, the Intel chip processing plant they put in Arizona, in order for them to be finished, they have to be reshipped to Taiwan and then shipped back to the States. So that tells you right there. So I I foresee more a management style of role. I don't foresee the United States getting directly involved in anywhere, because people don't want to see people. They don't want to see soldiers coming home in body bags. The GWAT is still fresh in their minds, unless something really horrific just happens somewhere via China or the Middle East or wherever. But I don't. I see more of a management style, as in proxy war, or providing materials, munitions to a point, and then making those triage decisions of, hey, you're going to get the ammunition, you're going to get the material, and you're not, and I'm sorry, that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
so what do you think about the idea? So I kind of have an explanation for that, and why, like you said, it seems like people aren't taking it seriously. Like the situation we're going to run into, for example, with 155 rounds very soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I feel like all these people that get into the highest echelons,
Mm-hmm.
at that point, they're all kind of short timing to one
Yeah,
degree
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
another,
yeah, yeah.
and
There's no
they're
Billy
not.
Mitchell. There's no like grand figure who's like driving a new doctrinal change or anything like that. Like that's going to revolutionize, warfare. No, there's not.
And they're all gonna outlive the problem pretty
Yep.
easily. Like, so, like, none of this stuff's
Yeah,
gonna run out
maybe.
before
We'll see.
they're retired on their,
Yeah, yeah.
on
When,
their
when, when,
property.
when they're retired, they own a leadership. They have a leadership institute, or they're on the board of some defensive contract, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like they're on the board of a defensive contractor, and like,
Mm-hmm.
what's more bullish for that defense contractor than, oh, we're all out of
Yeah.
155 rounds and
Oh
this
yeah. Yeah.
ammunition. Like, it's a big
Yeah.
emergency now. We'll
Yeah.
we'll pay huge, ridiculous
Mm-hmm.
premiums in order to get this flow
The
back going.
contract they sent, I can't remember the company that they signed for, like, Avenger rounds, was just astronomical. Patriot rounds, the same thing, astronomical. Like, to replace all these munitions that have been sent to Ukraine, astronomical. And I'm like, okay, but where are you going to build them? In what facility? Where? Like, your facility can handle X. You say it can go to Y, but you have to build Z. So, like, I'm sorry, you have to build Z amounts. So where's the facility to build Z amounts?
Yeah, and then you have the people that are going to be really the ones responsible in terms of contracting officer representatives and KOs at that senior level, especially
Yeah,
especially the corps. If they're not
yeah,
themselves looking at a defense
yeah,
contracting job, their bosses are. And
yeah.
so, like, these are the people that are required to hold those folks accountable if they're unable to
Mm-hmm.
deliver, right?
Yeah,
So it's like, if they say they're going to be able to deliver a certain quantity of material by X time and they don't,
yeah.
it's up to that core to say, hey, you're not meeting specs, and then not pay out on the contract. And
Mm-hmm.
that creates a lot of problems. That's
Yeah,
difficult to deal with.
yep.
A lot easier just to say, oh, okay, yeah, they're working on it, and just write up some lame ass justification. And I see that actually being most likely where this goes.
Yeah.
um and my experience as a core is limited, but like, I could totally imagine that very easily happening, where they're
Mm-hmm.
just not delivering and still
Yeah.
getting paid, if not
Yeah. Oh yeah.
all
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
it,
Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
most of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think the Navy has the Navy is at, the Navy is shooting itself in the foot, and there are those who who want to glorify the greatness of our Navy. And our Navy is the smallest it's ever been. It has the least super carriers that it's ever, like, it's had since, I don't know, like the '90s or whatever. And like, the Navy still has not addressed or come up with a solution to what is the tyranny of distance of the Pacific. It dogged them in World War II. It was a huge issue, and there has been, like, we're reducing our capacity to move stuff through the Pacific, and they're just like, If the Chinese try to invade Taiwan, we'll destroy them. I'm like, how? Like with what? And how are you going to resupply?
Yeah.
You just don't get it. Like you don't get it. You have to you have to secure those bases for refueling, for rearming, for air cover. Various reasons why you have to secure island hopping. That's why it was a hugely successful campaign during World War II. Like you're going to have to replicate that in a certain way, and you have only X amount of aircraft carriers. And I hate to tell you this, if one sinks, that's like 2,200 dead sailors. Like, is America ready for that?
Yeah, that would be insane. And
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that they do have answers.
And they're like, oh, it's a carrier support group or whatever, strike group, and there's layers of the defense and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, what if like there's not an infinite amount of missiles or Vulcan Vulcan guns or anything like that, munitions, like that shit will run out. Like, what happens then? What happens when that 2 or 3 strikes hit? And guess what? That is that the forge starts to roll over or whatever starts to roll. Like, what happens then? And
yeah, I think
I think they're very full of themselves. I think they have this certain air of like, we own the oceans and we own the skies, and like for the most part, the Navy and the Air Force have not, and the Army haven't operated in truly contested airspace or water space in very long, and they're resting on the laurels of when they did.
Yeah, I think our FA-57 folks, a lot of them see these issues, and I think it's very depressing for them.
I mean, and when there's so much talk about creating a no-fly zone over Ukraine, and they're like, oh, we sweep the skies of the Russian fighters and stuff like that. And I'm like, really? Are you sure about that? And even if you did, like having to maintain that, like, and the national and then people's nonchalant response was like, oh, it would just take a few, it would just be a few casualties or airframes or what. I'm like, you mean people's lives? Like, you're talking about people's lives, Americans. So you're talking about, if you take just a couple of dead Americans and you would get what you want, right? That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, towards what ends, but that to them, that's like a foregone conclusion that that Russia wants to take over Europe, and
so again, either Russia is the most powerful army in the world, or it's a backwards nation that can't invade Ukraine. Can't be both, right?
Yeah, it does seem kind of ridiculous to simultaneously argue that it would be trivially easy to force a no-fly zone.
Yeah.
While also that it would be next to impossible for us to prevent Russia from taking all of Europe, and that's what's inevitably going to happen if we don't do anything.
And then you have several aircraft carriers of different nations, plus a MU heading in the Eastern Med. So you have that whole situation. So again, it goes back to the point: the United States is going to have to start triaging because we're running out of stuff, and so where do they do it?
Yeah. Well, since these are all intractable problems that are very depressing. Yeah. I mean, it's yes. So on that.
Well, I mean, but again, like as an MI officer, and even after I retire, I will still think like this. I do not think about the problem that we have now. I try to think of those friction points in the future where decisions are going to be made, or new TTPs are going to be created and tested, so that they can be used against us. That's I'm trying to think 2 to 3 steps ahead.
And so I guess the last question I got for you as we transition out and wrap up is, what's next for you? You know, if it sounds like you're not going to be able to stop thinking about this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So what are you going to do going forward? Is this going to become more of a hobby, thinking about this stuff,
Well,
analyzing this stuff, talking about it
so
on the
it's
internet?
twofold. One is I am currently job hunting. You know, it'd be cool if I I'd share my resume with you, but I gotta stay anonymous. I'm actively job hunting. I'm looking for a role in like a company that has an established intel sector or security sector, to protect them from insider threats, threat mitigation. Also, companies I'm targeting are those that provide threat platforms that track threats real time, such as Everbridge and such. But I am also, with the support of my wife and backing and nudge every so often, I am I am kind of venturing out and creating alternate streams of income so that I can have a good outlet for this. So, like doing a Substack, doing more in-depth information or more in-depth type of analysis on Twitter, and and various other types of things I can do that allows me to exercise my brain and make money while doing so. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Please get on Substack. That would be
Yes,
wonderful.
I do. I already do have a Substack account. It's all ready. I just have to. I have to write my first article, and really it's about being secure in my analysis, if that makes sense. Like when I put it out there, I don't care if people don't believe me, whatever. I just want it to be analytically sound.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As soon as you got it up, let me know.
Thanks,
And
I appreciate it. Yeah, Jesse,
I'll probably write an article myself on it.
The goal is, and I told my wife that this Sunday is to have something ready to be published on Monday. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it would be good to have you on Substack. It's a great community to be a part of.
I have outline upon outlines, topics upon topics ready to go. I just have to flesh them out and write them.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, Peter Wrangle, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me.
Of course, always.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you do going forward and interacting with you on Substack, and then hope everything goes smooth with the medical evaluation board and transition, and you're able to line up some sort of job where you're able to apply your skill set here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really do.
All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap up, and yeah, appreciate your time.
You're welcome.